Hi guys, it's Kiana again. Click the thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell. Bye! Hi guys, we're back with another one. You're listening to the Re-Education Podcast.
Hi guys, welcome back. Simone speaking. And again, I have a special guest with me, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi guys, my name is Rhyana. I'm an independent advocate and I have a business called PLANN, Wholesome Group.
Thank you, that was nice and sweet. So what I always do at this point is I know a bit about my guest, but for the listeners and the followers out there, tell them a bit about who you are and what you do.
Cool. What I said before, I'm an independent advocate. So what that looks like is we uphold people's human rights. And I think it's very important that people understand what human rights are and how to utilize them. And my job basically helps people navigate this system called life, in order for them to know exactly what they're entitled to, how to access services and support in whatever systems that they need to access. I'm a mother to a young king. He's 13 years old. The other aspect of me is I run a business called PLANN. Well, I won't say business, it's a project. It's called PLANN, Positive, Loving, Achieving, Nurturing Network. And it's an empowerment group that focuses on self-healing, self-nurturing, workshops, coaching, inspirational talks, and things like that. That's maybe me in a nutshell.
Rhyana, thank you so much for joining. You were one of the first few people that reached out to me actually when I put my logo out on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, we planned this, I think we planned in June. Yeah. We're now in late July.
Yeah. But it's been nice. The build-up has been nice because over the weeks I've been listening to some of the podcasts as well. So it's kind of allowed me to understand the flow and the angle of where you're coming from with the Re-Education Podcast.
Yes, thank you.
Like I feel like I knew you before I even spoke to you.
And that's good. I want people to get a sense of a bit of me, and the fact that you can get where I'm going with the podcast itself just really warms my heart and reassures me that what I'm doing is the right thing.
Absolutely, because the only way we can do what we need to do is by hitting it at all angles. So it is a re-education in so many ways. So yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you, sis. Thank you so much. So guys, myself and Rhyana have spoken, and the topic of conversation today is workplaces are changing for the good or for the bad. Now, Rhyana, we've spoken, and I want you to tell the listeners and followers right now how this topic came to fruition for us today.
Yeah, so should I start with the emails or just the actual conversation? Because I think we kind of had a bit of a spark in the emails there as well.
You can start from there. I would say start from there.
Yeah, so I reached out to Simone about the podcast and she let me know about some of the topics that she wanted to cover. But she also gave me the opportunity to provide a topic of choice. So I had mentioned about my role and the position that I'm in, and also about the newly formed working group that's in my workplace that I'm now chair of. And that became the topic of discussion around workplace and how things have changed and the right and wrong way to do things. And that's kind of how, when we spoke on the phone, we kind of just hit it off in that sense where sharing our own experiences from work, sharing the learning curves that we've had as well was really exciting. But also it was like an epiphany moment, because it was so shared, was able to really understand each other's point of view. So some of the things we spoke about was around the actual structures of the working groups and how they can impact a company or an organization. The tokenistic gestures and being the pinnacle person, or it being framed as the typical black girl that's been appointed for something. And we spoke a lot about also falling off the bandwagon when you feel that something is needed. So black people being in positions where you can do something, but because it's not moving at a pace you would like it to be, you jump off and then the initiative stops. Those are the kind of things that we spoke about on the phone. And we'll probably, hopefully, we're gonna delve more into it today.
We're gonna dive right in. I know I've shared in previous podcasts, I think I've touched on it a little bit, about me sending an email to my workplace off the back of George Floyd's murder, and that it did really kind of incite conversations within the organisation at management level and at board level. But I want to hear your experience in terms of what's going on, what happened a couple of months ago, quite, globally, as a response to George Floyd's murder. What happened in your workplace?
So we've got a new CEO. She got appointed during this COVID season, and she's American. She's not American. She's a migrant to America, but grew up there most of her life. So she sent out an email, probably the same 2 days after his slaughter was publicised, because it was a slaughter. And the email was very blunt, very candid, that this is not right. We as a human rights organisation need to talk about what's happened, understand how we can impact black lives and amplify their voices to support them and the people within our organisation, because people are grieving. And what I said to you, I need to point out to your listeners, is that she's a white woman. Now, some people may feel that, you're just doing it because everyone else is doing it. You're jumping on the bandwagon. But you see, when you reach out to people, so from that email that she sent out, I emailed her back. I didn't even know she was the CEO at that time. I just responded and I said, I've worked for this company for 2.5 years, but this is probably the most response to a worldly issue that the organisation has actually addressed. She emailed me, asked her if there's anything that I can do to help, because she offered a safe space for us all to kind of come and speak about it. So I said, if there's anything I can do to help, I'll be glad to do so. So she emailed me straight back and said, let's set up a meeting, so on and so forth. So leading up to the meeting, the bigger meeting with the organisation, helped her with a bit of presentation, some resources, but also just an emotional outlet. So the first time we spoke was over Zoom, and I actually couldn't hold back my tears. I actually couldn't, and the outpour was so genuine and so sincere that I could feel her pain through it too, and she was crying. We both was crying, blubbering. And she just said, I can't say that I understand your pain, but I'm here to listen to it. And that in itself struck a chord to me. And you see, usually I'm like, what do you know about my pain? If someone says, I understand. But the fact that she didn't try to say, I understand, it's more like, I'm respecting the space for you to offload, I'm here for you. That in itself showed me enough that I could put my trust in where we was going with this new initiative.
Where do you think that that emotion and those tears came from? What do you think was the cause of it?
Point blank, it's the fact she took the time out to listen. I'll be honest, because there was moments throughout that period that I had tried to reach out to other people in the organisation, and it was, I can't say it was dismissed, but there wasn't an emotive or an emotional response. The reason why I say that is because, you see, when you can give blanket statements, this isn't something you can give a blanket statement for.
Nope.
And then continue doing what you're doing about your daily life. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
The immediate emotional response that I should have received wasn't there. When the CEO gave me that, the fact that it wasn't just a phone call, it wasn't an email. She wanted to see me. You know? And that's what I feel was that penny dropping moment.
And it's what you said about that blanket response. I think for my organisation, that's kind of what it was, and attaching it to a comment that a black person had said. So it's like, I'm not going to have any specific feelings about this, but I'm just going to insert what somebody else has said because they're from that community, and then hope that that's enough. Like,
I'll be honest, I didn't even get that. The response I got was, so it was in regards to my hours. I was down on hours, and I was asked why I was down. So I just responded and said, I've been really emotionally distressed by everything that's been going on. I've been distracted. I've not been able to sleep. Yada yada. Went through it and sent the email. The response I got was, thanks for your email.
Wow. So no understanding for the emotions and, you know, the trauma, because that's what it is, you know, the response to what has been going on for hundreds of years and how it's affected you in this year, not even this year, the month of May 2020, May/June. Wow, thanks for your email.
And the reason why I mention that is because it's no fault on that individual, because they may not have known how to respond. And this is where I can only look at what my expectation in that would have been as well. I'm a very reflective person. I don't ask for sympathy or empathy in that instance. I was letting that person know. My expectation of an emotive response is on me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because they look at us, I don't know what it is, but they look at us and it's like, oh, you know, you're strong. Who told you I'm strong? Like, did I lift up a bus for you to say that I'm strong? Or is it because of the trauma and what we've been through as the black people, hundreds of years going now, that makes you feel that I'm strong? Because you were stripping the children away from parents and they had to go and look after the slave masters' children, you know, breastfeed and everything, and mind them like they were their own. These times their child's over on 150 miles away, could all even be in a different country to them. Is that why I'm strong? Because of the trauma and what we've been subjected to as black people. Like, somebody please break it down for me why us as black women or black people are just naturally strong. Like, I never wake up saying I'm so strong, man. Like, I didn't wake up saying that. Like, I don't understand it.
There's so many reasons why we've been put in that box, because even if we was to relate it to this whole COVID response, you know, the majority of black and brown people are in front line. They're in that caregiving role. They're in that pushing on and keeping on the front line, keeping society going. That didn't happen by design. It was formulated. It
really was. And, you know, in episode 6, I speak about what is enough in the workplace when addressing the topic of racism. And I want to hear your experience, because I do believe I touched on it a little bit, but I didn't quite go in depth with my experience. But I want to hear what happened after the CEO sent that email. You responded, and you've spoken already about the working group. Like, what happened after that initial email and feelings and conversations happened?
Well, we had a group meeting, like a whole company meeting. It was voluntary, so you didn't have to attend, but it was about 100 people.
It was voluntary?
It was voluntary.
Wow.
And again, being a human rights charity, we have to give people autonomy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
So making it mandatory can also bring backlash again from another human rights perspective.
Okay.
So again, these things can be calculated, but again, I appreciate the fact that it was provided and there was a lot of people that came. Anyway, fast forward now, a lot of the conversations that was going on throughout the meeting kind of geared towards issues to why is this happening? I don't understand the purpose of the meeting. And I think at that point I turned my camera off and I walked away. And I was like, what do you mean you don't understand the purpose of this meeting? Like, what? Why? So we're here to talk about racism. We're here to talk about why us as a human rights charity, how we can do more to make sure everyone's rights are upheld. But you don't understand the purpose of this meeting.
Wow. That's deep, you know. When you frame it like that, it's a human rights charity and you're asking why we're having a conversation about people's human rights not being upheld. Like, that's mad.
Human rights. And let me even break it down, because I was doing a little bit of research earlier as well, just to brush my skills up. But there's different types of rights. There's absolute rights, and there's other types of rights as well. But one of the most important absolute right is your right to life. Now tell me, Sister Simone, do all of us have a right to life?
No, because clearly they can just take it away.
So my question is, what is the point of this meeting? It's to make sure everybody
exactly. Exactly. Wow, that's mad. I think that deserves a conversation from the CEO to that member of staff, or those members of staff. Because
you see, sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards. Realizing that there's issues internally, you can't go out externally and advocate for how you can support people when there's issues like this internally. It now is getting to a point where we're doing moves for external and internal progress. So because it's a charity, there's a few processes that have to be adhered to, like bringing recommendations to the board approving it. But again, I'm very hopeful. I can't even say hopeful. I'm sure that the recommendations that's going to be proposed and put forward are going to be approved. They would need to let me know why they're not going to be approved, and yeah, we're going to keep going back and forth on this issue.
Yeah, and I mean, this is going to be a long process. Like, this battle and this energy, like, it's all about the energy. Like, keep the same energy now all the way to the end. Like, this is going to be a generational thing as well. We're not going to get through everything in one year, in one decade. Like, it's going to be an ongoing battle. And I like the fact that you said that, you know, they're going to have to come back with what they agree to and what they're technically disagreeing to, and have to give reasons why. Because, you know, I mean, it's all about that understanding. If you don't understand where I'm coming from, then when I'm complaining about something, or I'm raising an issue about, or a concern about something that is definitely deeply rooted in racism, you cannot understand it, because I guess it goes back to who feels it knows it. Like, I didn't want to ever have to believe that, you know, who feels it knows it. It's like, no, I don't have to have felt it to understand. I can still have some empathy, but you cannot put yourself in that or say, well, I know what it feels like to have been subjected to this, or to have been made to feel like my life is lesser than that of a dog.
Yeah. And even what you mentioned about raising a grievance is, I think, particularly the Black community need to start reporting things more, and not just letting it slide, or if this is just the way it is, or whatever it is. This is how you can call people out, by reporting. Like, you see, a lot of the time I hear, particularly black women in workplaces, not this one so much so, but in other workplaces I've had, they're more likely to say, oh, even if I raise something, it's not going to be listened to.
I was going to take it back to, I've already mentioned episode 6 and what is enough. So when you had the conversation, the voluntary participation conversation, that just sounds crazy. What came up out of that, apart from people saying, why are we having this meeting? Like, what was the end result after recommendations being presented to the board?
Oh, so we haven't got there yet. So the board presentations are later on, like they're periodically. So for the meantime, it's the formation of the group, what areas of the company we're looking to infiltrate, how we're going to do it. I think something that's very important when forming something like this is having not only Black, Asian and ethnic minorities, but also having our white allies on board as well.
Yep.
And having people of all levels within the company, so that way you're able to understand all the levels of the system within the company. So some of the things that we've been doing is looking at our recruitment process.
Yep.
And our recruitment policy.
Mm-hmm.
Our grievance and disciplinary procedures are going to be looked into as well. How we gather data from staff and our clients. So it's things like that that we're putting in place, but also building a social media awareness about our explicit stance on this as well. So showing that we've got external accountability as an organisation to doing the internal work and the external work.
Yes, that's what it's about. The external work as well. We need to be, organisations need to be actually seen to be proactive in I don't even want to call it the movement, but it just in general. Yeah, because our lives matter, and it shouldn't just be because of one incident that was shown globally that all of a sudden our lives need to matter. Like, they've been needing to matter for years now, and there's so many different areas. Because I was even thinking, when it comes to like your communication, so like your branding, your marketing material, like how much is it that I really don't like the term diverse. I've come to realize, really don't like it, because I feel like it's just a blanketed word for actually just saying racist. Like, let's just call it what it is. Yeah. Is your marketing material or branding, is it racist or is it not? Is it anti? Are we including everybody, or are we just not? Or are we sticking too much on one community?
I think what you do with the marketing, definitely. We've had discussions about that as well, because it's very whitewash. The board's whitewash, the senior management team's whitewash, and I think particularly for companies, they have the power to exercise autonomy over what they want to portray as well, with justifiable reason. So if you are doing positive action to, lessen the disparities that we face in employment, then set through some actions and actually follow through with them. Don't just talk about them. Advertise how best you are going to do it. Look at the flaws that you have actually had in the company and say, look, we messed up. This is what we acknowledge that we did and are doing. We're doing the work to try and rectify it, and this is what we're looking to change. Our steps towards, like I said, equity, not equality.
Yeah, that is true. I've been very, I don't even want to call it PC, but I've been very watered down when I've spoken about my experience at work and certain things, because I know that quite a lot of the people at my workplace on all levels actively listen to my podcast, but at the same time I've made a vow to no longer censor myself and speak my truth. And I actually raised the grievance at my workplace before, just as COVID, the lockdown started. So this is way before George Floyd was murdered, and in and amongst other young black males and females being killed by the police. And I think the timing, a lot of my grievance was basically rooted in how much my experience was fueled with racism. And it wasn't, on the surface, it was the underhand, what I like to call the microaggressions, the privilege, the unconscious bias, all of those things. And what hurt me the most in the whole of that process is that nobody fully understood what I was talking about. Nobody. Not the person that was investigating, not the people it was being presented to. Like, nobody fully understood exactly why I felt the way I felt, and I was raising the issues that I was raising. But with the current events over the past month and a half, I can say, especially with my podcast as well, people are actually starting to understand now. Well, not understand, but see where I was coming from and where I could feel, where they could see where I could feel the way that I felt. And now I'm at a point where, do I raise the grievance again because the appeal time went and, all of that stuff? Or is it just about having these open and honest conversations at work? And I always said to myself that, well, I've done my complaint now. It is what it is. Like, whatever happens, happens. I know that I've said what I've said, and I've spoken my truth, and I can feel more comfortable moving forward. But I think outside of the grievance, it's given me a voice.
Yeah.
And it's shone a light in the organization on things that people were never aware of and didn't actually realize was going on. It's always been there, but it's like, until your eyes are lifted, and it's not even a matter of being woke, it's until you're able to see what's actually going on, then you realize, oh, they were always here all this time. Oh yes, that's lovely. Let me stop acting like they're not here because they are here.
I hear you. Even what you were saying about like your workplace listening and them gaining a better understanding of things. You've got to think a podcast is you, your guest, it's your truth, it's your rawity. No interruptions, no hold on a minute, let me interrupt and say something. It's just an hour of you talking and them listening. So that's where greater understanding comes from, when you have the space to listen and when you're able to have that clarity.
Yeah.
And that's when self-awareness and raising of consciousness comes about, because you've been able to take in the knowledge, sit with it, and understand it better.
100%.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that. Thank you. But it's funny because I feel that maybe if I'd raised the grievance now, definitely would have got a different response. Definitely would.
Do you still work there?
I do. And aside from the grievance, because that happened before George Floyd's, as you said, slaughter and murder, we've still done, like, I've still had to raise the issue of, this has happened, where's the reaching out and the space for me as a black woman in the organization, not even just as a black person, as a human being in the organization. And off the back of both my grievance and my email, like, people actually want to talk to me and listen and hear my experience as a black person in the organization. And that's not because George Floyd was murdered. It's because I spoke my truth. So I wonder if I didn't raise the grievance and things were already being put in place, and then I didn't send an email, where would we be in the organization?
That's true. In your heart of hearts, what do you feel? Do you feel that it was handled correctly?
What, the grievance or the response to not? I felt that they.
Grievance and the response.
I don't think that they took it as. I don't think that they fully understood exactly where I was coming from when I used the word racism. And looking back at it now, I should have requested a black person to have dealt with my grievance. I should have made the request for that. But then I shouldn't have to request that. The organization should have fully understood that this is something that we know nothing on. And we should get somebody that's best suited to actually investigate this. But it's learning. And
learning. But at the same time, this is just a bit of a nerd of me. But you could probably request the paperwork from the complaints department and find out how exactly they handled it, and if they didn't go through certain procedures like contacting the Equality and Advisory Board, for example, for advice. If they haven't handled racial discrimination claims before, then that would be best practice to seek advice. And if they haven't gone through that measure and they just dismissed it as any other discrimination case, then that would be grounds for them to look at it again.
That's so true. That is actually true.
There you go. It's free to contact these services, so utilize them, But again, only if we ask these questions, we'll get these answers. So, again, this is called the Re-Education Podcast.
100%. Who knew that I'd come into? Who knew that I'd go into my own podcast and be coached? Oh my gosh! Thank you for that, sis. That was definitely needed. Definitely needed. Thank you. But enough about me. I want to speak to you. So on a live that I did with former guest Ria Gibbs from the Black Teachers Connect.
I listened to that yesterday.
We were on live the week that podcast went live. But on that live, Ria mentioned, "Are you going to pay me for my time?" Like, yes, you want me to volunteer, but are you going to pay me for my time? I know you've mentioned already that you're the chair of that working group. So, are they paying you for your time, sis?
Well, since we last spoke, because I know what I said last time, and I was like, my hours are subsidized, so that's a form of payment for the work that I'm doing for this group. But then I started thinking about it, because something happened. There was an email that was sent to the rest of the group about their time not being accounted for, and that it's basically their free time.
Oh.
But I'm the one that is able to subsidize my hours for. And I said, so you want people to help your charity for free and give their free time, but you're benefiting from it. Now, I was straight back, no, this isn't happening, this isn't right, something needs to happen. So I spoke again with the CEO, and she said, yeah, I've got a pot of funding. Don't worry about it. Even if we have to cover it like that, everyone's getting it sorted. Everyone's getting their hours subsidized, or will fund the payment of the hours through my pot of funding. So again, remember when I said there's people that you just know are about it?
Yeah.
You just know. Put your money where your mouth is.
Thank you, and thank you.
Put your money where your mouth is and prove that this is what you're about. If you're saying it, speak it, walk it, pay for it. Whatever form that looks like. Labour's not free. We're not doing no modern slavery business.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. And that is pretty much what it is. Like, because I know I've been approached for I've even volunteered myself actually for a couple of different working groups. And when Rhea said that, I was like, oh. But then there was something within me that was like, but how can I really ask to be paid for this? Like, but I should. It's like my mind went in reverse and went back to that questioning myself, and like I should be thankful when, you know, I'm making a change, and no, because everybody else is gonna get paid.
Thank you.
Everybody else is gonna get paid, so I'm gonna need something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need something.
In volunteering yourself for something, yeah, because it shows that you would be willing to put yourself forward because you actually want something to happen in this area of life. However, at the same time, when you know that there's somewhere that could be funded in order to propel this further, and you're actually truly about these positive actions, then why is it even a question? If you're going to source externally, then pay internally too.
100%. 100%.
There's procurement panels that can be formed within companies. There's reserves of money. There's fundraising opportunities. If you really want to fund the work that you say you're going to fund, or the work that you say you're going to do, pay for it in whatever way it needs to be paid for.
Because there's no longer like making yourself and making your organization or whatever it is look good off the back of me, like, and that's how I felt in my workplace. And because the environment in which I work in is one where I have to present a very specific way. I have to be confident, I have to be assertive, you know, I have to literally demand the attention of either the clients or the people that work in the environment. And it's like, it's okay for me to be that there because it gets you your numbers there.
Yeah.
But the moment I present that way in the office, labeled aggressive, intimidating, you know, not a team player, always got attitude, it's like, but do you know where I'm coming from though?
Get over yourself. Like, just get over yourself. I'm not being aggressive, I'm being assertive. Because if this was anybody else, you'd say, yeah, I'm a go-getter, go for it. You're very confident. But because it's me, I'm shaded with this brush that you're scared because I'm being assertive, because I may be taking something that you feel that you've got automatic rights to. No, I'm tired of that. Just miss me with it. Let's start a new conversation. Yeah,
because that one is just dry, tired, and played out. Like, it really is. And within a year, I can be called certain things by colleagues and the trainer as well. It's just like, oh, okay. And that was what, 2 years ago, I believe that happened, where I was in training, and the facilitator called me aggressive. She was trying to goad like the rest of the team, but nobody was taking the bait. It's like, but you've said, like, stand and, you know, do what makes you feel comfortable when you're doing public speaking. Because like, from the moment I stepped in that training, the woman it's like she took set on me and was like, she was determined to make me look like the black girl, the aggressive black girl, stereotypical black girl, like with all of this, and, you know, with the neck rolls and the finger, and who do you think you're talking to, and I don't care, I don't business this, I don't business that. Like, she painted me out in her head whilst I was standing there introducing myself as Simone, and she still didn't say my name correctly. I was like, oh, okay, I see you. And for me, I look at whatever your marketing material, like if you're giving me a booklet or a leaflet, the first thing I'm looking for is a black face. And when I don't see one,
my chart, do it all the time.
When I don't see one, I'm like, oh yeah, this ain't for me, you know. I already knew it. From I got into that room and she mispronounced my name Simone, even though I just said it to her, and she didn't have no accent, like she spoke perfect English, better than me, yeah? And she still mispronounced my name. It was at that moment, Simone Marie Ujar knew, this is going to go downhill, Simone. And you need to just take a back seat because you're not going to be that one. You're not going to be that one. You are not. That happened in 2018, and 2020 is when we did equality and diversity training.
Do you know what? This is a perfect example of why these issues are still continuing, because it's okay when it's, you know, something's happening and no one's being affected, so to speak. If it's just one person, it's okay. And then more and more people happen. Okay, it's not that much of an issue. How much of an issue is it really? And then when there's loads and loads of people, okay, now we need to do something. Because if you've not noticed, because you mentioned 2 years, and that rings a marker for me.
Yeah.
If you've not noticed, in the last 2 to 3 years, the shift in public attitude has been more to diversity, equality, and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in all places, no matter what job you're looking for, you're guaranteed to see those 3 words in every job description.
Yes.
You think I'm joking?
I know, because I've looked.
The last 2 to every job description. So, when it comes to training and more recent times, okay, but that's now. What happened to back then? Was it not needed then?
Mm-hmm.
Your experience then, that's not something that I'm guessing is going to be a case study for the company to learn from. But yeah, I'm guessing you can hear the frustration. But again, done.
I mean, I want to believe that. I want to go with the belief that because management has changed and a lot of roles have changed in my organization as well, and I'm the only one plus another person that kind of holds that experience and a bit of that history. So it's like, in a sense, I'm thinking maybe, and I guess my own assumptions are what make me feel different types of way. And I think in my head, people may be thinking, well, this was years ago, you know, those people aren't here anymore and that situation wouldn't happen again. But then I say to myself, but it shouldn't have happened in the first place. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. And if I had allies at that time speak up and speak out, as opposed to the black and brown people in the room, because those are the only ones that spoke out, and it was 2 of them.
Even some of them are afraid to speak out as well. A lot of the time we aren't able to show compassion for those that don't look like us. Us black people are also the same as well. We don't show compassion to white people that try to understand us. Asian people that try to understand us, vice versa. So there's a lack of compassion in all axes of this thing that we call race. And yeah, I think hindsight is a good thing.
Oh,
so
100%.
what would you have done in that situation now?
I would have made her feel uncomfortable the way how she tried to make me feel uncomfortable. That's what I would have done. Or I would have even put the white people in the room on the spot and been like, why aren't you saying anything? Because it's about why is it okay for me to be uncomfortable when I came in as innocent as anybody's? Like, I didn't come in there to have no problems with no one, no issues. It was the one training that I actually wanted to do. Public speaking. That was the one training out of a list that I wanted to do. And that's the only reason why I was there, because I could have easily have said, nah, I don't want to go to this one. I don't want to go to this one. But I went. And I should have made everybody else in that room that don't look like me, talk like me, or understand my pain uncomfortable. That's what I should have done, because that woman made me feel uncomfortable.
Well, that's what you would have done differently. Honestly, sometimes you gotta really reflect, because why would you minimize your feelings of a situation when you know it hurts you to the point it brings you to tears, where you have to be consoled? Why do we have to experience this just because you don't want to police your speech?
Yeah. And she made the she said that she will use the word aggressive when speaking to another black woman, because that's just how, if she feels she needs to say it, she's gonna say it. Okay, cool. All right.
They don't have the power to intentionally bully me, humiliate me in front of my peers, and render me to tears. Who gave you that power?
I must say though, I went downstairs and cried. Never cry in front of them people.
No, of course not. You never show them the but it's still, you know to yourself you cried, innit? You know to yourself you did it, and it's like, yeah, I always, like, one thing I teach my son, I said, you should never give anyone the power to bring you to tears other than yourself. Honestly.
And I guess aside from the workplace, I think a lot of environments are gonna have to change, like whether they like it or not, they're going to have to change, because recent events have stirred up more confidence and more power amongst the black community, in the sense where we're not keeping quiet anymore. Remember that thing that I complained about 2 years ago or a year ago or a month ago? You understand it now, don't you?
Exactly.
You understand it now just because George Floyd was murdered. Okay. So let's have a conversation about why you didn't understand it when I initially complained.
And these are the types of things that need to happen, because, yeah, sometimes people will say, oh, there's not much we can do about the past, but what can we do to influence the future? And again, like what I said before, clarity, listen, like actively listen to people, because even like when I was doing this group meeting earlier on, I was asked, okay, are we going to need training, and how are we going to support emotional individuals that's been impacted by a racial comment or whatever? And I said, if you know how to listen to someone, listen. That's how you can understand. Like, you don't even have to give feedback.
No.
You don't even have to not technically consult them. Sometimes people just want to be heard.
Yeah.
Just listen, actively listen. Like, don't just passively listen because that's what you're meant to do. Actively listen, engage in the conversation, even if it's not for them, for yourself as well.
100%.
How are we meant to level up if we're not even willing to do the very basics of that?
All of that. And I think collaborative comes to mind when I think of like how workplaces and just in general things need to progress and move forward. It's about that collaborating. So as a team, we need to work together. As a community, we need to work together. If there's an avenue for organizations to partner up and work alongside each other, like, we need to do that. Like, and like you said, we can't do everything, and we got hit at different angles.
Yeah. We got to remember, we're fighting a system.
Yes.
As we say, this is systemic racism. And think of it like an octopus. Yeah. And it's got many tentacles in many pies.
Yeah.
And no matter where you are, what level you're at, whether it's on the individual level, within your family, in your local community, whatever level of a company that you're in, the progressive work that we're doing will all support the wider movement of breaking down the system.
Yeah.
We're undoing the work that has been done to build these oppressive systems.
Yes.
Just by even a conversation or continuing that with someone else.
The power of a conversation. Listen, the power of a conversation, people don't fully understand, because let's say on this podcast, we will have a conversation and we'll touch on topics that someone may agree or disagree. They'll take that and have that conversation with somebody else who again will agree or disagree. And then it's like that ripple effect. It keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on. And this is why I've moved to YouTube, because I want people to actually engage and share their thoughts and feelings, not only on what we're talking about, but the topic itself. Like, if this topic speaks out to you, like workplaces are changing for the good or for the bad, like, I want to hear what other people's workplaces are, because I'm conscious that there's some workplaces that are just carrying on like business as usual. Nothing ain't changed here.
But you know what? Again, I try and look at it from both sides of the coin. Some people are scared to put a position on this because they don't know how to, or they don't know what backlash is going to come, or if it's even going to be supported, you know.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, you've got other companies that's like, be scared and do it anyway, like being accountable for themselves. So it's just, again, it's all about learning. It's all about learning and being a witness to what's happening, because I'm paying close attention to where statements are coming from that companies have never, ever said anything about anything to do with race. Like, you want to keep your head up and put your head back down. Or also, like you said, partnering. So even if you don't know how to do it, find an organisation that can help you. There's no harm in action. It's like what we always say: if you need help, reach out. Like, there's no harm in reaching out for help.
Not at all.
This is the area you can't cover. Don't try and wing it. Like, we'll see the gaps. So it's about being persistent, consistent, and continuing the conversation.
That was lovely. Continuing the conversation. Wrapping up now, what are your hopes for your workplace with regards to racism and inclusion?
See, my hopes, and this is me speaking for me, I want to see people in senior management, I want to see people on board level that look like how they're going to fund certain services to continue dismantling this oppressive system that we're working in. Again, like I said, we are all about equality of human rights. So I want to see the array of colour throughout the organisation and embracing all of our skills, our strengths, our qualities, and being able to serve the beneficiaries that we serve, that's our community, and being able to do it to the best of our ability.
Yes.
I want us to see us partnering with organisations that can actually make change. I want to see us influencing policy more. I want to see us meeting with MPs, that's what I want to see.
Yes.
Whether it gets that far whilst I'm still in this company, who knows? But whilst I am part of that company, I would say that's what I want to see. There needs to be some change. And whilst I'm there is gonna be change.
Yes. Yes. Speak it into existence, sis.
This is my tagline for my business: speak it into existence, act on its presence.
Oh, that's the one.
Because there's no point in speaking it, and then when the blessings come, you don't know what to do. What? You got to act on it actively. Be active.
And last question I have is, what advice do you have for anybody listening right now, no matter what background or community they're from, with regards to implementing change within their workplace?
That's a good one. Any advice? Okay. I would say, speak up. If something moves you and you feel that something can come about, that feeling, like it really has to burn you in your soul to know that, like, I strongly feel about this and I can't feel comfortable being here whilst this is happening. Do something about it. Contact the right people. speak to your colleagues and see how best, even if you don't feel confident to do it yourself, speak to your colleagues and see if you can do a collective letter to your manager, or sometimes just do it.
Yeah.
Go straight, because that's what I did. But,
I hear you on that one.
real, like, if you feel that you are able to reach out, don't be scared, because at the end of the day, if you know that this is something that you really stand for, and it's something that you truly believe that you can make a difference with, speak up. Be scared and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because the only negative thing that can happen is some form of backlash, and that will give you more clarity, more lessons to know whether this workplace is for you.
Yeah, it's about that. I like that. Be scared and do it anyway.
Yeah, man.
Because the courage that you're displaying to just speak up anyway.
Yeah.
Trust me, like, you can't be silenced.
Absolutely.
Tell the listeners, what do you have planned, or what do you have coming up with regards to PLANN?
Well, I'm actually in the process of doing some short videos. So I'm going to be recording some videos around how you can motivate yourself, also how you can speak up, so speaking your truth, again linking it back to my line of work.
Yeah.
How you're able to develop a voice in the workplace for yourself, and being able to support friends and families to just spread the word of love. So it may not always be relative to race, but all things that will be discussed can be applied to all aspects of your life. So those are the types of things I'm going to be doing. For the meantime, I've been writing a few articles that need to be published, so I'll probably publish a few of those. But last but not least, last year I ran a pilot of a workshop called Perception Sessions, and it's literally conversations about different perspectives on different taboo topics. I like it to be mixed gendered, because we've all got a female and male dynamic and energy within us, and I believe a lot of the time we've got gender segregated workshops where a lot of the time we need clarity from another man or another, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, Perception Sessions is all about discussing taboo topics. So one of the things I'm going to be talking about is how you're able to manage anxiety going back into this world.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't really know what we're doing. And knowing what to ask, like, for example, if you want to go to an event, or, do you know what I mean? Actually knowing what to ask so you feel comfortable to make an informed decision. So that's what one of the first workshops is going to be about.
Lovely. I like that. Perception Sessions. Rolls off the tongue.
It's been cooking for a little while. That's why I've done a little pilot last year, and it received a lot of good feedback. So yeah, it's going to be a monthly thing.
That's amazing.
I'll send some details.
Please do, and share your social media. How can people get in touch with you? If they want to hear more about the work that you do, if they want to get involved with PLANN, if they want to get on Perception Sessions, there might be somebody here that can publish one of your articles. You never know. Like, tell people where they can find you, sis.
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at PLANNWEG. And I've also got my website, which is plannweg.org.uk as well. I've got a YouTube channel. That's also PLANN Wholesome Empowerment Group. You can hit me up on LinkedIn if you're looking for something a bit more professional. And that's just my name, Rhyana Ebanks-Babb. And that's me.
Wherever you're listening to or watching this on, there will be details in the description box, so you can be sure to follow, get in touch with Rhyana. Rhyana, thank you so much. Thank you. Like, this has been another one of those great sessions. Thank you. Yes, definitely. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And as I always say, I look forward to continuing to learn and grow with you all. Bye.
Peace out.